Welcome to the Real Dad Podcast. I'm Dave.
I'm Mark.
I'm Joey.
And I'm Brian. That's Dad.
You nailed it.
I knew that was
Also, did the intro song have
coming out right.
Did the intro song have your voice for the Real Dad Podcast?
Yeah.
Has it always been yours? Or brand new?
Yes, it's always been me. What do you?
Wow.
What else do you think
That's
that
not.
is?
We've listened to that every
A
time.
billion times. For some reason in my head, I thought it was
billion?
Aaron.
Oh, what?
Before.
Aaron.
Aaron.
I don't know.
Who's Aaron?
No. Hold on. It's not you that says the Real Dad Podcast.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's
Yeah,
not.
I swear it wasn't before.
No, it wasn't. And it's
It
like,
is. That's just a voice I put on.
See,
guys.
that one sounded like you, and that's why I clicked. Before it didn't sound like you. I don't
And
know.
I'm Brian.
no way.
When no one's in the room, I can make voices.
I can make voices.
Yeah.
No, I thought for sure it was
Nope.
Right?
It's all me.
Aiden or
It's
Aaron.
all me. It's me singing, and it's my voice.
Well, I knew it was you singing, but
So you redid the thing,
Yeah.
and okay.
It
couldn't
was
just make
supposed to
one
be
with the breakfast
temporary,
with.
but
It
it's
was-
very much not temporary.
we're a good like 60 episodes
Yeah.
deep with that being the intro. I don't think it's temporary anymore.
I'm
Needs to
having a
be
little
updated.
bit of a rough day here.
Oh no.
I for the longest time I thought I'd be okay with our son like going from the bed that he's in
Okay.
to like a big boy bed.
Yeah.
What's he in? Like a crib still?
Well, no, not a crib, but it's like we took the one wall off the crib,
Right.
Okay, yeah.
and
Yeah.
then he sleeps in that. But he's up way too early. It's like 5 a.m.er, and he comes into our bed and like he wakes everyone up.
Right.
So we think that if we give him a big boy bed, then
Okay.
hopefully then it's a little bit more comfortable.
Yeah. It would be
Okay.
enticing for him to stay.
And I
How
thought
old is he right now?
he will be 3 in September.
He's ready.
Okay.
He's ready.
Um,
For sure.
Oh yeah, we found a wedding venue.
Yeah, that happened too.
Yeah, so much has happened since I've seen you guys. Holy moly!
It's only been a week.
I know.
So wait, before you jumped there though, you've got the bed.
No, it's a whole thing because
Okay.
the only date available was his birthday.
Yes, you
And I
mentioned
was
that.
like,
Okay.
that'd be such a wicked party. But then
Right?
my wife is like, I don't want to have to then like not celebrate our anniversary every year because we're having a kid's birthday party.
Yeah.
Right.
So, anyways, that's what triggered this whole word salad. But the mattress, I just bought him one. The mattress is in my truck right now.
Oh, okay.
So like
For the
when
new bed.
Sorry, this is that awkward moment where I
Okay.
realized I was speaking into the back of the microphone. Sorry, guys.
I can still hear you.
I am just a mess.
Okay.
Continue your story.
Brian's totally listening. I'm loving it.
I was like, why? I was trying to figure out why my voice wasn't coming through clearly, and it just did.
Yeah.
Backwards mic.
There you go.
I'll
Got me.
get you.
All right, well, let me bring you up to speed.
Okay.
I'm listening.
He's getting his big boy bed, and it's in your truck.
Okay.
The mattress.
I was
The
the
mattress-
I was there.
Is in my truck.
Okay.
And my wife was like, that's going to be so great. She texted me. And I was like, yes, but now that it's happening, I don't think I'm okay with it. Like,
No?
I don't want him to,
To
because it's the last one.
Yeah.
It is.
Because wasn't there was another Patreon member? Was it Paul Cronin who was asking us about the switching the kid into the bed as well? I remember there being a conversation about that because we were talking about
Okay.
it all being around 3, and
Yes.
it's that.
Yeah.
Are they going to get out of the bed and all of that? And how can you kind of build up that excitement enough about the bed that it's like, this is the bed, stay
Right.
in it forever.
Well, especially if you wait long enough too, and you have to go straight from like crib to bed, the transition happens because they're climbing out of the crib. We were just talking about this when we were golfing with our buddy Greg because he's got a son that's turning 3 as well, and he's gotten to that stage where he's climbing out of the crib. So it's like, okay, now your kid to get up is actively climbing and jumping off the bed. Now you're making it easier for them to get out. So then it becomes that fear of like, okay, now I've just made it easier for them to come in my room at night.
Yeah.
But you've already done the initial transition mark of going with the one wall off, and now you're just going from the crib sized bed to the big boy bed.
But like it's the same mattress and the mattress sucks.
That's
so like
fair.
we're just hoping that he's more comfortable. Because even at like 5 a.m. he'll go into our bed and then he'll lay down and sometimes he'll fall asleep or sometimes he'll be like, I want to go to the couch, and then he'll lay down on the couch.
Right.
So I'm like, maybe it's
that he just wants out of that.
Maybe it's just the comfort thing. But then my wife was like, "Yeah, I found this mattress on sale for $500." I was like, "Pump the brakes." I don't even have a $500 mattress. I'm not spending that much money on my kid. Sorry, but
a hard
no.
That is such a stupid thing that we don't spend more money on. I mean, this isn't a great podcast talking about mattresses, but
Hey,
to be
it's
honest,
important.
you sleep on it every night. Why are we not?
Hey, I spent money on mine.
Can we
Ours
get
is
Okay,
really
okay.
old.
To be fair, I do
Sponsorships?
spend. You know what? Bloom me up. Bloom me up. I will sign wherever I need to sign. But I do believe that you should invest because we had slept on one that was like 20 years old and then finally splurged and like my back pain's limited. Like a whole bunch of stuff has
big
gone
difference.
This is why I wear nice shoes at work.
down. Totally.
Because you're in your shoes like
All the time.
like
time.
90% of the day.
100%. But
Get
when you're
comfortable,
2
folks.
years old, you haven't earned the right
Nah, that's a fact.
to have
Do a
a decent
$500
mattress.
mattress. Yeah, you should still be on the ground.
You've not. There's not a chore out there you could do. You just haven't been alive long enough to deserve that type of treatment.
Yeah.
Right?
Unless you are like a Cadillac of a kid who like doesn't cry, then you can get the mattress.
My son is not that son.
Okay, well there you go.
And sorry, bud, if you're watching, but it's not you.
You're not a Cadillac.
It's not you. He's more like a Honda Civic at best.
That's all right.
Reliable.
Very reliable.
At
vehicle.
bedtime, he's a CRV. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's bottom of the barrel right there.
We loved our CRV.
I love my kid. I love my kid. But I just mean like he's a bit of a train wreck at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? You don't know if it's
hella
going to
expensive.
start. Yeah, you don't know what you're going to get.
Our trick for keeping our kid in the crib, though,
Duct tape.
no, we always put our kids in sleep sacks.
Yep.
Which is like basically a sleeping bag
Yeah.
with arm
Yeah.
holes.
It's a straight jacket for kids.
Yeah.
Call it what
So
it is.
he figured out before he was 2. He figured out how to take it off, and then he was climbing out of his crib. So
Is
there's-
Leo?
No, our youngest crew.
Okay, cool.
So we'd be like sitting on the couch at like 11 o'clock, and he'd come out and like sit beside us on the couch with a big smile on his face.
What's up, bro?
Okay. So we just put on his sleep sack backwards. So he can't take it off anymore.
There you
So
go.
the zipper's in the back.
And now he doesn't climb out of his crib.
Smart.
Stick it. It's always a good moment when you can outsmart your kid.
The other morning, I walked in to get him, and he was trying to figure out how to take it off, though.
Yeah.
I was like, "You figuring it out, buddy?" Yeah.
I'll get there. I'll see you tonight.
I'm not talking to you.
He loves
old man.
climbing out, though. Like, if you take off his sleep sack, he doesn't want you to pick him up. He's like, "Let me climb out of my crib." So,
That's awesome.
Oh.
so he's ready for a bed, I think.
He's getting there. It's weird getting to the point. I'm just getting there with Murphy because she's 7, where she starts to like when she gets up earlier, she doesn't just come straight into the bed. So this morning we just got the full story of like, okay, what happened this morning? Because there were noises. She's like, oh yeah, I got up, I had to pee, so I came into your bathroom because I like your toilet better. And then I came and I snuggled you for a minute, but you didn't wake up. So then I left, and then I found Cooper, and Cooper had to poop. So then I brought him into your bathroom so that he could use your toilet too. Because again, it's so much better.
You
than
talk
ours.
just like her. That's exactly how she talks.
That's how the whole story goes. But she'll have a morning now. And like if we sleep, not even sleep in, if I'm up at like just after 7, but if she got up at 6:15, then she had herself a morning.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. It is the best stage. That's the stage I'm in. We don't have to do anything in the mornings anymore. Like on school days, we're making lunches, and obviously there's always the rush. But on weekends, we can sleep right through 9:30 if we want to. The kids are awake doing their own thing downstairs. Nothing gets destroyed. Nobody, like, you got to deal with a bit of a mess here and there, like maybe some cereal on the ground or something.
Right.
They get themselves food. They feed themselves. They watch their shows, do their things. It is glorious.
I'm not there yet. They're not to the point where they can feed themselves yet. They still got to wait for us to come down to do that with being 7 and 4, because that would be a gong show to come down into. So,
But you could set up some easy food.
Our
Easy-
kids do that.
Just set up a bowl and like one of the little feeder tube things
Even-
like the hamsters have.
Our youngest is obsessed with yogurt drinks,
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
which are my biggest pet peeve. I do not hate many things more than yogurt drinks.
Are we
Subway.
talking Yop?
Yes.
Or are you going off brand?
Wow, okay.
It is so much garbage for like 2 seconds of drinking yogurt,
Yeah, it's
and then it's empty. and you get like 6 of them in a pack.
But for those
It's
of
like-
you that don't know Brian, he's very upset right now.
I am.
Passion
It's
in
such
his
a
face.
waste.
It is
I'm
a
like,
lot of
do
waste.
not buy those. I hate them so much.
I have 3 packages, 6 packs sitting in the
like
truck right now.
We'll have like a lineup of empties on our
know.
counter.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
get these things out of here. I don't want to look at them.
Here's
anymore.
why I love them so much, because our kids are similar age, and I call it, I can't say it because my mom listens to this, but let's just say Saturday mornings, boobs are involved,
Okay.
and it's just a great. I love waking up that way. Okay?
Who does?
I just love waking up that way, and kick the kids out of the bed as fast as I can. I'm like, there is a 6-pack of yogurt sitting on the bottom shelf of the fridge door.
So it's serving more of a purpose.
Nuts.
Yeah, I can
They
get down
love
with that.
Saturdays because they run out of the room, and I'm like, "Hey, how much time we got?" And she's just like, "Whatever." And it's been great. It's been so good. Best thing about moving where we moved, because we're in
That's
a
awesome.
bungalow now. It's like, just have at her. Don't
Right.
care.
You don't have to worry about stairs. Yeah.
No, it's awesome.
On that subject, and while we're here, I
Wait,
feel
which
like we talked
subject?
about
We
this
talking
before.
about yop or
no, the
sex?
Saturday morning sex. Just because we had this discussion today on site a little bit, and I feel like we talked about it on the podcast before. But do you guys have a lock on your bedroom door?
I just bought one.
Yes,
Thank
but it's
you.
not good enough. I need a keyed lock on my bedroom door.
Oh, wow.
No,
Yeah.
we had
Yeah.
we
My
had
man.
like the fence gate one. You know how there's like
Yeah.
a lock
Oh,
on
yeah.
the one side,
The latch.
and then it like locks in. That was at the old house, and we loved it.
Yeah.
But at this new one, it doesn't work. So we just bought like a door handle that like, because the keyed ones on the other side, you can open that. Like you can just
Kids can
stick
figure
a
it out.
quarter
Yeah,
in there
yeah,
and,
yeah.
and open it.
Sorry,
That's
yeah.
not a keyed one.
Or
though,
it's
but
not
like,
what I
yeah,
mean.
like
Yeah.
that's the one that we have. So like I can lock it, and then they can just like the.
Use
It
Use
might as
their
well
own
not be
nail.
locked.
Yeah,
it takes
you've
like
got
a half
few
second.
seconds to hear
No.
some rattling.
No,
like,
you got-
we're just
you need
tickling
to
each other.
You gotta get the Webster. Is it Weber's? Weber's
Yeah,
the
Weber's.
barbecues.
Yeah.
Weber's
Wisers?
barbecue.
Wisers. That's the one.
Is it Wisers?
Wisers?
Like the drink.
Yeah. Like the
You could
I think
buy
it's
them
actually
at your
Visa.
local home hardware if you want.
or schlage. Schlage.
You know we're contractors.
Yeah.
But anyways, if you get the Halifax version of the W one,
Yeah.
it doesn't have that. It's like a push button on the
Oh,
striker.
it's like a pinhole on
Yeah,
the other
and then
side.
the pinhole, they can't get into it.
That's
Until they're
that's,
older.
that's the hack.
See, I go with the secondary lock, similar to what you had with the fence gate, but we've got like the eye hook. So it's
Yeah.
just like the one I screwed it right into the trim at the top, little eye hook on there. What I like about it is it's noisy. So then if they try to get in, there's a rattle. So like I
Right.
know they're at the door.
You've
regardless
got
of what's
some
happening in the
time.
room.
Yeah.
What about like the midday on the Saturday? Because like the window is so small.
Yep. Wait,
I'd
like
say
the actual window?
We're,
You
getting,
still-
we're
yeah.
getting there. All right, we're getting there. I would say midday is very rare occasion in
I don't
my
even know.
household.
I think it's only happened like twice. The day of the vasectomy and like one random lucky day that I probably should have bought a lottery ticket on.
Yeah. We had a moment on Saturday and it was so close to happening. Oh. But then she's like, in the back of her mind, she's like, I have to check the backyard to make sure Crew's there
Yeah.
before this happens. And I'm
Right.
like, don't go outside. If you go outside, it's done. This is
Yeah.
not happening. She goes outside because she can't think about anything else.
Yeah.
Which I get. You
Yeah.
know, you got to make sure the
gotta
kids are
safety,
safe.
for
but,
sure.
You gotta clear
yeah,
your
then it was done.
mind.
It was gone.
Yeah,
It was
no
gone.
chance.
Window closed.
See, we've been able to, but yeah, that's where the lock on the door comes in. I will preach this till I'm blue in the face because it only happened once to us. Like Murph walked in once when she was younger, so she was 4, so around Coop's age, so not old enough that she would have put it all together. At least I hope she didn't. And the day after I put the lock on the door, we're like
right.
talking to our buddy today. He's like, "Oh no, it's happened a number of times," and I'm like, "You haven't put a lock on her?" No. I'm like, what do you? What? Why? I don't want to face that conversation with my daughter right now.
Yeah, we have not had an incident yet.
No, we haven't had one
walk-in.
either.
We like so with the conversation sparked because within the last week it would have happened 3 times.
Oh,
Week
shoot.
and a half. I should
Hey,
say.
good for you.
Yo, what
was a good
what
week.
a great week.
It was a good week.
It was a great week.
We were
It's
having
not
a
even
great week.
Father's Day yet. What the hell?
It was a good week. I'm not gonna lie,
Okay,
boys.
I'll give it
but
to
it
you.
would have happened 3 times with Murph that she would have come in.
That's a
but
key lock,
The
then.
lock was on.
It's paid for itself.
It's clutch.
Yeah, in therapy alone, it saved you lots.
You're talking about a $3 lock. Months of therapy, and there would have been therapy. Let me tell you.
We've had some times like when the morning when you could hear like the footsteps or something, and then you're under the covers though, so it's like ooh, you gotta like quick adjustments or dirt to the bathroom or or something like that. So I don't know about you guys, but my wife and I are like zones as far as like where we are at are so opposite in that in the morning I'm waking up ready to go.
Okay.
And my wife's kind of like, she's not like, she's at like a 3 maybe where I'm like waking up at a 10.
Yep.
And then as the day goes on,
That checks
mine
out.
curve starts to go down and hers starts to go up. So there is like a window
find
where
where the
sometimes
axes
it's
Yeah.
like,
meet.
it's
Yep.
too late for me sometimes where it's just like, I don't know if I got any energy left for this. What? Yeah.
I would say 90% of ours is after midnight. That's just how we.
And like,
that's how
I
we
don't even
roll.
know if I could do after midnight.
Yeah.
I don't know if I got it in me.
It's nothing. in
That's
the
just
tank
how we
at that
roll.
point.
We go to bed late, so
Yeah.
it's
Right.
like by the time we get to bed, it's like, we doing this or?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
We have I've finally after 13 years I can like pick up. Usually my wife chooses violence. Like when my wife is like poking and punching me
Yeah,
and like
okay.
around dinner time, I'm like, oh, we're getting it in.
She's riled up.
Today's the day.
It's
Okay.
go time.
So like, am I showering later or just straight to bed?
Yeah.
And she'll kind of give me a weird look. But yeah, that's where like we don't frig around now because of that reason. Like before there was like this weird, like, we're going to wait till the mood is right. Like now there's like none of that. Kids are in bed. Do they sleep? Yeah. Get in the room. Let's get
go.
this going. We both have a fucking bedtime of like, that we need sleep for. Let's just
Right.
get it done. I'll grab a little snack.
Yeah.
And then we fall asleep. It'll be great.
It's best to leave room for snack time after.
And that's
Totally.
been the best times where
100%.
like if after the kids are in bed and you go down
Right.
to watch a show, I'm likely to fall asleep watching a show and I'll
Yeah.
fall asleep
Yeah.
on the couch
Yeah.
and
Well,
then
you're
it's
the
like
wife in
I'm
my
already done.
yeah, that's
Where
Maddie.
if like the kids can go to bed and then we can have some time and then you go downstairs and you've got a snack and a drink and it's like, oh, that is just
Perfect
like
night.
yeah, you're so relaxed, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sex
Yeah.
then chocolate.
Almost.
That's what we call it.
Man, the other day we were like I'm on the Suits binge again. I'm
nice.
watching
Such a
Suits.
great show.
Nothing wrong with
Anyways, I'm like sitting down and watching the thing, and then she walks around, and she doesn't have any pants on. She like walks in the thing, and I was like, "Are we doing this?" And then she's like, "What?" And I was like, "No, there's no what's about it. You don't walk.
You
out
don't
with
have
the
any
thing."
pants.
Like I'm on 100% of the time. I could be dead asleep. You say it's a go, and we're doing this. You can't send me mixed signals like that. While I'm like, am I cracking this bag of Doritos or am I going somewhere else? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I got you.
Joey, you've got a story, Joey, of when you were playing Call of Duty with your friends.
Yes, that was a big moment. That was exciting for
Tell me more.
So this is when you know you married the right woman. So she and one of her other friends had seen this thing on TikTok, I believe, where you surprise your husband.
Wait,
or
this is
boyfriend.
adult Joey?
I've
This
seen
is adult Joey. This is only 2 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
So I'm
And
playing.
Wait, and you were still playing Call of Duty with your friends?
Fortnite.
Yes, man, we
Fortnite.
still Call of
Fortnite
Duty.
with
These
the
guys
boys.
are gamers, man. Where
losers.
is
Yeah,
this?
get up
Come
and back.
on.
I'm telling you how
Losers.
about I got laid, bro. Back up. Anywho,
all right.
so we're
It's kind
playing
of
Fortnite.
judgmental, Mark, but
Yeah,
okay.
Why are you coming at me?
All
So we're playing Fortnite with the boys, but the thing is, the fourth guy wasn't in on this, so it's just me and two other guys whose wives texted each other and said, "Hey, we got to do this thing." So we're mid game, and they go to the other room, and the idea is you get buck naked and then walk into the room and see what your boyfriend or husband does.
Got you.
So we're
if they
mid
keep
game,
gaming or-
exactly.
yeah.
So we're mid game. She walks in, and I was mouth open, headset off, didn't say anything to the guys. We're
Gotta go.
off and gone.
That's the only reaction.
What did the guys do?
Both of them did the same thing. So our
Hilarious.
one buddy, who was the fourth, who's not in on this, we just dipped. He was like, I thought I got disconnected, but everybody was still there. My character's alive. I was the first one back because I'm efficient as fuck. So I came back.
Back to gaming?
Yes, sir. It's like a snack.
Exactly. Snack and video games after. I'm efficient.
That's the life of a
that
gamer,
was,
man.
And that was the idea. This wasn't
Nothing that I'm doing in this world that I'm just gonna say, pause, let me go take care of something here, and I'm gonna go right back to doing it. Absolutely not.
I did. I went back to
Kudos,
it.
hats off, even.
I was the only one to come back out of the three of us.
Yes,
But
of
it was
course.
early on. Whatever. I was done what I
I'm
needed
not mad
to
at
do.
you. I'm just I don't even know if I'm impressed. I don't even know if there's a word for how I'm feeling right now.
It was early on in the night. If it's any later, I'm not coming back. But it's only like we were done. It was like 9 o'clock.
Listen, you
Like,
don't
I'm
have
gonna
to-
get back to my
that's
game.
just
early.
fine.
That's
time for
early.
leaving.
Plenty of time for gaming.
You don't have to justify it. I just don't understand.
That's totally fair.
gamers. I don't get it.
I get it.
So, do you guys have you noticed? Like, that's a story from a couple years ago, which is pretty
Yep.
great when you consider how long you've been married.
Yes.
Do you notice a difference from before you were married, sex, to now having kids?
Way better.
Are you allowed to have sex before marriage?
No, Brian. But before you had kids, motherfuckers.
He's saying that because you didn't.
Yeah.
have
No,
sex
no,
before
It wasn't a
Duped
shot at you. It
into
was
it.
more of just like
Shoot
that's
'em.
how we were
Shoot 'em.
raised.
It's okay. It's fun sometimes.
Yeah.
But early, like before kids versus now having kids and like well established into marriage.
It's
For sure.
Some of us aren't married yet, Dave. If
You heathen! Wait, how did
Okay.
you have kids?
so, I can't tell you that, Joey. I think the actions were much more adventurous before kids,
Oh.
but the action itself is much better
Oh yeah.
now.
Gotcha.
And my wife and I have had this conversation where it was like, I have like before I was in like the best shape of my life, I would say. I
Right.
feel like I was more insecure then than I am now.
Yep.
And she feels the same way. She's like, I'm more like I don't necessarily I'm not going to speak for her, but for myself, I'm not as proud of my body as I was back then, but I'm way more secure with her now. So like there's just none of that like guessing or like
Yeah.
trying to be alpha or like any of that sort of stuff that I think I used to put on before. So now it's like 10 times better and I'm just like I'm in my zone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And-
Agreed. Got that.
Well, we're still there. What would you say as far as like your desire for it? Has it stayed the same? Has it gone up, down? Like as far as like where you would weigh that is in like as important in your relationship.
I think it's a 10 out of 10 important.
So like it's stayed the same. Like it's been something that's equally as important to you now as it was back then.
Yeah. Equally as important, but we've had like ebbs and flows where like there was like we used to do it all the time, like Joey's Good Week over there. Like we would have those on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
But then like like those I'd say 3 or 4 months after having kids, that kind of goes like to the wayside.
Yeah.
I think there's been a handful of times where we've gone like 1 month and we're both kind of like, hey, I'm not keeping score, but like, I mean,
You should probably do some stuff.
fucking make sure that we're still here, you know?
Right.
And then once you get over those hurdles, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just kind of gets back into it. So I would say that like we have both prioritized it and made an effort to prioritize it to make sure that like it's like we're both happy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's where like now I would say it's the best ever.
Right.
You know what I mean? I would think she would say the same, but I'm having a great time.
I would say that sex in general is a lot less important in my marriage than I thought it would be.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think just because like when you are, I don't know if it, again, going back to how I was raised and like the pedestal that it gets put on,
Right.
Especially like waiting till you're married. It just like, it gets built up to be this like just crazy thing. And then you are told that it's like, you're kind of like raised to think that it's going to happen all the time. So you just think it's this really important thing in a marriage. And like, don't get me wrong, I think it's important, but I think like in terms of priorities, there's like probably 3 other priorities to me that come before our sex life.
Right.
Like I'm much more concerned about like the best friends, like where we are just and how we connect outside of just sex.
Like yeah.
Yeah. So like I think that's way more important to me. And just being on the same page parenting wise and stuff like that. I think that's super important. But I just think it's not as important as I thought it was going to be.
Right. And
Yeah.
I would say similarly the same, where
Yeah.
I think like having waited so long to get there, and then you're married and you're like, you just have this expectation of what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
And then not that it doesn't really meet that expectation of just what you think it will be, but then yeah, I think you think that will be your entire life of like, this is going to be everything. But then you realize how many more things there are just within your relationship.
So many elements.
Yeah,
right?
and I feel like for us, all of those other elements have made for better intimacy
Exactly.
as well.
Yeah.
Where at the beginning and stuff, I don't know, like I didn't really know what we're doing, kind of thing.
Right.
Like you're trying to figure things out. Where now we're in a place where we've been able to communicate so well that I'd say similar to you, Mark, where we're in probably one of the best stages of our lives intimately. Where before it wouldn't have been, I would say it would even be more vanilla. Where now
Right.
it's more of like a Sunday. Like there's more things to like.
I think
that are going
like you're
on.
saying, like you get more comfortable with your body and what you
Totally.
want
Right.
and like, and so does she,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just gets better and better.
And I think all that speaks to communication with your
Totally.
partner.
That's
Yeah.
what. Yeah, my
Yeah.
mind is
The
going there,
biggest
too.
thing when it comes to anything with a relationship, but especially your sex life.
Yeah.
Where I'd say for myself, I'm kind of a mix of the two.
Yeah.
Where I'd say I hold it very high in importance in our relationship. I just always had, and we had a rocky road with our sex life. We had sex before marriage. Early on, even though that was very faux pas in our family. But then we had a rocky road where we didn't for probably a year. It was somewhere around that. It was
Oh,
just
wow.
a very strange part of our relationship where my wife's dear mother saw a medium who warned her that her teenage daughter might get pregnant because she's really good at her job. So then that spooked my dear wife.
I never knew that.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
That sounds painful.
So that was a dry patch. But then, yeah, we didn't communicate very well through it. So we've always said like married sex was way better than dating sex.
Interesting.
And then for us, it's only gotten better since then because we've gotten better at communicating better.
But do you think it's the married, not married, or it's just getting older, like maturing and like not being a teenager?
Definitely
anymore?
that. And like it took away for her, and again, like it's like I'm not going to speak for her, but what
Yeah.
she has told me is it when we got married, it took away that fear of
Right.
abandonment and giving that big part of yourself to somebody who can just kind of up and leave, right?
Right.
So it kind of removed that thing that she kind of had floating around her head, and then we just started to communicate a lot better because now we're married, we're living together, you're learning again what each other are like, and we went through several years of good sex, but it wasn't again I'd say it would land in that vanilla category, right? Like we
Yeah.
didn't try a lot of new things. Meg, my wife, is very vanilla. That sounds meaner than it should. She would agree with me early on in the relationship. Like she doesn't push herself with a lot of stuff like that, especially when it comes to like food, sex, going out to different date nights, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Early on in a relationship, she really struggled with that. Where I think since having kids, maybe proving to herself that I can do anything now, like I just made a human. I think that was big for her self-confidence. So that's really done volumes for us when it comes to our sex life, because now we've been able to communicate better and we've been able to kind of push each other's boundaries and find out what we like and don't like. And that's created what I think is, a fantastic sex life.
I wouldn't say marriage because I'm not married over here.
Yeah.
But post vasectomy,
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Are you just trying to
rub it in? No, but this is what I'm gonna say though.
Yeah.
Is we've talked about it, my wife and I,
Yeah.
and I was so naive to the fact of how much weight
Right.
that weighs on them.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's something that I never really thought about until after. Like, obviously, when it's done, you're like, oh, yep, whoopsies.
Yeah.
You
Right.
should probably figure that out. And you're driving all over town looking for Plan B. So, to 3 towns, actually.
I've been there once.
Yeah. There was a shortage, remember?
I remember that. I remember that for you.
Unbelievable. Anyways, since we have had that talk, it's something that genuinely scared her.
Right.
And there was it would put a little bit of resistance in her.
Yeah.
Whereas now I can almost sense the comfort. And it I don't know if there's any sort of science to back it up or anything there, but that sense of comfort in her is super, super attractive to me. And it like draws me in. So yeah, it's bananas.
I don't know if it'll be as much of a, well, it'll be a big change for me personally, because like Maddie, my wife doesn't use birth control of any sort. So like we're just on, she tracks and we kind of go based on that. And then I just like pulling out is just second, it's just what I do.
Yeah.
And I would say that I'm fairly trustworthy in that manner.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be great for me. But
Yeah, exactly.
It's a big moment. We would pull out as well. So you go a long time, and then all of a sudden you don't have to do that anymore.
so like I don't. Well, maybe she does, but I don't really think there's that same fear there for her right now. Hopefully not. I don't think so. We haven't she hasn't brought that up, but it will definitely be a little more carefree.
When she has something to compare, because we never talked about it.
Right.
And I don't even know if my wife noticed it.
Right. Might not have been fully aware
It
of.
wasn't until after, when like you have that, like some great conversations after sex.
Yeah.
But like we were, and then she would say like, I don't think I even realized like how much more comfortable that procedure
Right.
makes
Right.
things.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Just not even realizing it. And so like you're in for a whole new world.
Take me there. Take me there. I am open and willing.
Yeah, we're not, as you guys know as the listeners, we're not an advice-based podcast. we don't throw out a lot of
This
stuff
is
or pretend to
gossip.
know anything. This is us gossiping and us talking about our own sex lives. But I'll say for myself, if I was going to give any advice, if you are kind of struggling in your sex life, one, you need to communicate with your partner. You need to communicate what your needs are, what your thoughts are around it, and find out what theirs are. And I would say two, educate yourself. There's so many podcasts that are education
Oh
based.
my God! Stop talking
That
about
can-
other
hey, it's not what we do. It's not what we do.
And listen to them with your
some-
wife,
Exactly.
or your partner, whoever that is. Like it can create great conversation.
Yes, exactly. And that's what one of the best pieces of advice that I heard from one of them was like, if you are listening or you're educating yourself and you just don't know how to bring it up, that is the perfect way to bring it up.
Yeah.
Like just say, hey, I was listening to this on the radio or on a podcast. It came up and like, I wanted to get your thoughts on it because I thought it was really interesting. Like that's such a organic way to bring up an awkward conversation.
Yeah.
Because so many of us were brought up in households that just didn't talk about sex at all.
Totally.
So then, of course, you are going to struggle to talk about that in your relationship because it's awkward, and especially if you've never done it before, where you need to normalize the ability to talk about sex with your partner. Otherwise, things won't get better because you have to have that communication in place.
See, for us growing up, it was like, I don't want to say it was faux pas, but there was that sense of curiosity there. And I have 5 brothers,
Right.
and one of them is like the same birth year as me, and then the next one up is like 7 years older, and then 10 years
Right.
older.
Right.
So it was like trying to talk to the older brothers about it. They're just like, go find out, go find out. So I was like, I had just turned 13 when I lost my virginity. So you're still a kid, obviously. And that's a lot of like responsibility for a kid.
Yeah.
And not having that kind of like, I don't want to say shame, but like confidence to have that like, excuse me, could I have some feedback as
Right.
to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Here's
Yeah.
this survey. Could
Yeah.
you please fill it out?
absolutely.
Yeah.
But you don't really like, so you like that happens at such a young age, and like and in that time frame, that was like in the music, it was really popular, and like to be a man with like, that's what it was
Right.
all about. And so just being able to like have open and honest conversations about like, maybe not necessarily feedback, but like, what is it that you like? Or like, what do I do that you
Yeah.
like doing?
Absolutely.
Or what, where can I go from here? What do you want me to do with my hands?
Yep.
And where do you want me to put my feet? You know?
Right.
100%. Yeah.
And just the weight that takes off of you,
Yes.
because there is no like guessing games and like before having the before kids conversation, if we're comparing the amount of time I spend in my own head just guessing while I'm doing this.
Is this working? Is that working?
Yeah. It would like take time. It would like take things away from me.
Yeah.
Where I would be like, I'm going to have to fake an orgasm soon because this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just in my own head thinking about it.
Yeah.
Versus now I'm just able to like, I know I got a roadmap of where I need to be.
Yeah.
She's basically given me a GPS and I just need to go.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and then it just kind of like there is no guessing. And then, like you said, you go back to gaming or you go fucking crack open a bag of Doritos, rip a fart, and there's no shame.
Yeah.
No shame.
No shame. Yeah, that's the thing. Like you want, if you're, how do I want to say that? I didn't want to be like, if you're a guy out there and you want to have more sex.
You should have said it that way.
Okay, fine. We'll say it that way.
Or better sex.
Yeah, better sex, more sex. Then learn what your partner wants.
Totally.
And then when it's more enjoyable for them, they will likely want it more.
But do you think it can be a hard conversation as far as like your therapist was talking to you about what you need and you're
Yes.
like, I don't know what I need. Do you think there's a lot of people out there that like are like, what do you need? What do you want from me? And they're like,
Right.
I don't know
Yeah.
because they haven't taken that time to
I don't doubt it.
explore that.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think there's lots of people that have no idea what they want.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Well-
I think so for me and my road where I've kind of gone is like we were waiting till we got married, which made us really good at all the other things.
Right.
So like foreplay got that down. Like
Right.
we figured out all the ways without actually doing it to do it. And we would figure that out and then you get married and all of a sudden now it's like, okay, you can do this thing. And it was like, what is this supposed to be? Like, what am I,
Right.
like, it was like throwing a whole deck of cards in the air and you're like, what am I, how do I make a hand out of this? Like, I know what I'm supposed to do, but it's not like, what do you do?
Right.
And then my mind frame was that like a woman would just get there. Like I didn't know that there would have to be other stuff involved.
Right.
And then finding out and educating and understanding that not every woman just gets there straight from penetration.
The vast
that it's
majority don't.
not a
Or
large
they never
amount.
have.
Yeah.
Right.
And don't know what it's
And
like.
you're trying to figure that out. And then for me, I got really insecure and feeling like it was my fault or
Right.
it was
Yeah.
like a
Oh,
me
yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
And so that took us through a journey of like having that conversation of like, what is happening here? Like what is working, what isn't working? Because for me, there was even a time period in our early marriage where I didn't want to have sex because I was like afraid of failing almost, if that made sense.
Yeah.
Whereas like I didn't know where to go with it. So kind of like figuring all that out, but then that leads you into kind of like porn because you're not doing it. So you're doing
Yeah.
other things, but then you're getting an unrealistic expectation from other things. And then it kind of drew us further and further apart until we were able to kind of have that conversation
Yeah.
and talk things through and be able to figure things out more for each other. But I know a lot of women and people can suffer from a lot of different shame and stuff even
Yeah.
wrapped around that. So it can make having that conversation hard. And I think that's why I loved what Brian said earlier about just the other aspects of the marriage being in a good, healthy spot
Yes.
to help facilitate a good, healthy conversation around sex. Because I am very grateful for the place that I got to. And if I didn't have the hard time in between, I wouldn't know where I'm at. But it just like it is worth having the awkward conversations.
Totally.
Is what I would say to anybody out there. If you're in a hard spot, if you're struggling, have an awkward conversation. And it's not just going to be one conversation.
Yeah.
It's going to be a few conversations
Yeah.
to be able to get to a spot where you guys can feel comfortable again.
And the other thing I'll say about like connecting on all the other levels is that even if you haven't had sex in a little while, when you do come together,
Yeah.
and it's just so much easier to connect in that way. It's like
Yeah.
you haven't missed any time really.
Yeah.
And it's
So if you were to guess what people think is the average amount of times you should have sex.
I've listened to the same podcast. Let's ask Mark.
I'm not doing this. I don't support them.
most people think that 3 times a week, I think they
Is
said,
normal.
is normal.
Or the expectation.
Yeah.
Where it's far from the truth. Even they were saying that it was like 3 times a month or something like that was what the average actually is or something. But the concept being that people think that they need it a lot more than they actually do, or I don't necessarily know the science behind that.
Well, I
but-
think the message behind that, because again, we listen to the same podcast, was that it's more about the quality. Where
Right.
it's
100%.
spend that as quality time where you're having meaningful, important connecting sex with your partner, rather than having it every other day, but you're not actually doing what each other like. You're not actually using it as a connection. You're just using it to get off and move on.
Yeah.
Where if you can actually connect with your partner in those moments, I think we've all learned that like that is what makes sex so incredible, because you
Yeah.
actually feel closer to your partner at the end of it, not like, okay, well that's done, we can check
And
off this and move on.
when I was listening to that podcast, I felt heard or seen when she said that.
Right.
I was like, because like 3 times a month, I'm like personally, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Right.
Like
Yep.
that's not like that's totally like 2 times a month is. I don't really care. Like every time that we come together and we have sex or like make love or however you want to say it,
Right.
it's incredible. So I'm not complaining. Like
Yeah, that's,
life is busy.
Yeah.
I get it. And sometimes we're just exhausted.
And that's
Yeah.
a great point, especially where you're at with younger kids too.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if you noticed whether with your first or second or as your kids were getting older, if it opened up more for you. And I think that's also something that like we noticed in our relationship is as the kids got older, it freed up more time for us to be intimate.
Yeah.
If that makes more sense. Like
Absolutely.
where when you have the kids and you're young, it's hard and you're in a go stage. The one thing I told my friend that I was chatting with about this was it can be dangerous because you can sometimes use that as an excuse almost. And then you think, okay, but once the kids get older, then we'll get back to normal or things will be different. But how far did you draw apart in that phase while the kids were younger?
Yeah.
So how can you continue to keep things rolling and moving in a positive direction with that so that you're not spreading, like separating apart from each other, so that once the kids are older, you find yourself in a good place?
Yeah, and that's where again I'll always come back to
Communication.
communication, right? Talking with your partner, normalize talking about all the facets that surround it. Like that's something where Meg and I have come leaps and bounds. Where like, especially the stuff connected to like masturbation, where like we would never talk about that with each other. Where now we've gotten to a point where it's like we're comfortable with. I'll send her a message and be like, "Hey, it didn't happen last night. You think it's happening tonight? Otherwise, I'll just take care of myself, and then it's not gonna happen." Like, no, I don't think I'm gonna be in the mood for it tonight. I'm like, cool, no problem. I'll jump in the shower and deal with it that way, right? But removing that shame that was around it for so long for
Yeah.
myself
Yeah.
specifically.
Totally.
Breaking down those barriers is
man.
huge.
Yeah, it was massive for our relationship to do with that. So, I mean, the more you can communicate with your partner
'Cause
through those times.
I don't know about you guys, but if I got a message from my wife saying that she just like handled things on her own
It's the
in
best.
the day, I would be
Oh,
like,
that would be
"Whoa,
incredible."
that's, okay, tell me more. Like that would be a huge turn on.
Yeah.
100%. For me, specifically, like what has made it better with like jumping on the communication was I was always putting the pressure on myself to like give her what I thought she wanted and not really allowing me to experience things that I wanted.
Right.
So like I would I would very like I don't know what the proper word is I'm looking for, but I would intentionally try to do things to like make it more enjoyable for her.
Right.
Yeah.
Thus not enjoying it as much as I would
Right.
have done it.
Yep.
Whereas now, if I know her cues and I know that she's taken care of, I am now like fully aware that she's committed to giving me the same type of treatment. So like I can say things or do things or whatever, and there's no like guessing or if I'm crossing any lines or like boundaries or anything like that too. So it's like communication is top notch.
Yeah.
I used to watch Sunday Night Sex with Sue. Did you guys watch that
No.
show?
I remember that.
Been
yeah.
there.
It was like this 80-year-old
She'd
lady.
get like dolls out, wouldn't she?
Oh, a dildo.
It was, like,
and,
really
a whole bunch
late.
of stuff. It was
I
really,
feel like I
really
missed
late.
out on this.
It was really late on,
It was on,
like
was it CBC or CTV or
CTV, I want to say, or
we
even
probably didn't have
MTV.
it.
I don't know, but
Yeah.
it was on Sunday nights at like
Okay.
1 o'clock in the morning, and it was, I don't know if it was a radio show, but they filmed it, and her name was Sue, whatever.
I don't
It was
remember.
called Sunday Night Sex with Sue.
There you go.
And she would literally just take calls and have conversations about like how to give blowjobs and like
Right.
how to use a dildo and like where the clitoris is. And like I remember watching that, and I was like maybe 14, but I had just in my prime, quote unquote.
Right.
And then I remember being like, I can't imagine being in a place where like you are just having these types of conversations with like your partner.
Another human, yeah.
Yeah, it is very relieving, and like it's just so comforting.
Yeah.
having that kind of now be my reality.
Yep. And if, like, on that note specifically, if you're a guy out there that is intimidated by toys, please try to get over it. Because when you get to the other side of it, it's so much fun.
So much fun.
Yeah, if you can get, because I can totally understand the initial kind of feeling demasculinated. Is that a word?
Emasculated.
Emasculated. That makes way more
there's the
sense. By that, thinking that your partner needs something else. But again, it goes back to, I don't know what the stat is, but the vast majority of women cannot get there just by penetration alone. It's not you. It's not anything to do with you. It's not even anything wrong with them. It's just the way that most of their bodies actually work. So if they're having fun, you will have more fun. Go grab a vibrator and have a great time.
Great advice, Joey.
Sponsorship?
I feel like sometimes we have a hard time having conversations because you don't feel intellectual enough
Yes.
to know the words to say. And like even within this conversation,
Not
we've had-
us.
We've had multiple times of us being like, I don't know how to
Yes.
say this,
Yeah.
but it's like, just say it, just
Yeah.
talk about it. And I think like we got lucky in figuring that out because Joe's sister-in-law, she kept doing all of these like Tupperware parties and all of these different types of like
Not your
parties
wife.
where you would do things.
You
Not
are
my wife.
married to
right.
Joe's.
No, yeah.
A different sister-in-law.
A sister-in-law.
Yeah.
But she
Sister-in-law.
did
My brother's wife.
a sex night, a sex toy night
Yeah,
where there
right.
was like a bunch of different things. And then my wife like got one of the like the little vibrator thingies.
Yeah.
Like the bullet. To we're like, sure, let's try that. And we're like, oh, this just made a huge difference in life. And like that changed so much.
Yeah.
And then we watched the Netflix series Sex Room.
Sex Rooms, yeah.
And then that opened up a whole new world of possibilities as well. And it was just exactly what you said. I think I was very intimidated by a lot of those things where it feels like you're not good enough. And that's always been like my core issue
Right.
that I keep coming back to, whether it's work or other things, is feeling like I'm not enough. And I don't know how much of it stems from early sex life and feeling like that.
Right.
But I felt like I wasn't enough. And by bringing something like that into the bedroom, then it was like a shot against me. And I definitely had that reservation and fear kind of thing where it's
Right.
like, I should be able to do this. Why can't I kind of thing? Like, why do we need that?
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, no, that worked out quite well. This is a good thing in their life.
And again, I think that comes back to the education piece. Like,
Right.
educate yourself, because the more that you know around this subject, the more confident you are. It kind of segues a little bit into, I was chatting with Dave about my most recent therapy, which was yesterday. But we talked about that, how it's actually a physiological thing in men mostly, where we can shut down the part of our brain that's connected to speech when we get into these highly emotional situations, or we feel like we're not an intellectual match with who we're talking about or the subject we're talking about.
Yeah.
There's a part of your brain that will literally shut off, and that is the part that's in charge of making you talk. So it's not that there's anything, again, wrong with you, but if you get into these scenarios and you feel like, I just don't have the words to say how I'm feeling right now, that's your brain just literally shutting off. And you need to just step back. You need to take some time. You need to breathe, and you'll work your way out of that. But it's worth working your way out of that, because if you can get through those difficult conversations, they just get easier and easier, to the point to what Mark was saying, where you're going to be talking about it during and finding out what your partner likes. And then the communication part becomes fun, not something that you're dreading.
One piece of advice though is don't talk about it after bad sex. wait till it's a good time. If you've just had bad sex, maybe something didn't work right. Maybe somebody elbowed somebody. I don't know. Something happened.
Wait, has that happened?
And things didn't go well.
Sex injuries are
Or
funny.
even if there was just like I don't know, if something happened during sex and it wasn't a good experience and you're just like
You could
maybe you're not getting there or she's not getting there and it's like this awkward going to bed. Bringing up the conversation in that time wouldn't necessarily be a good time to bring it up. But wait till after good sex, be like, okay, what was good for you or what wasn't,
Or could we
during
try
the
this
day or
next
going
time?
on a
Yeah.
date. Yeah, to be able to bring things up.
Can we all agree not to call it bad sex? Like, sex is great.
I don't know. There's been bad sex.
It
Okay.
exists.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah, if it's like painful for the other person, or like that would be considered bad sex, no? I mean, we're not generally trying
We just
to
said I could
cause
say
pain.
things. My brain shut off.
I mean, like I've had times where I haven't been able to get there.
Yeah.
Whether like I've turned like you said, where you are too focused on the other person.
Yeah.
Where I've been too focused on trying to get her there, it's taking too long, and then I start losing things, and I'm not in my head anymore. I'm not aroused anymore, and then it's like, well, shit, now this is awkward, and then it's more like awkward sex, and it's like, well, where do we go from here now? And like we've had those awkward nights.
Yeah.
I don't I, like to me. Well, I mean, obviously, I'd rather get there, but like if she gets there, that's like number one priority.
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen for me one night, I'm like,
Yeah.
it happens all the time for
Yeah.
me. I'm like, I'm not worried about it, but
Yeah.
But just timing those conversations
Yeah.
in a good way.
Totally, yeah.
After the kids have gone to bed and you're both exhausted and you've fought during the day or something, maybe not a good time to
Not a
bring
good
it
time.
up.
no, yeah.
Next question. Daniel Lansdowne had asked us because
yes.
we had asked, let's bring this topic of sex up. We didn't know this was coming up tonight.
this
but
was
we're here.
not planned.
Was not on the
We thought this was
itinerary.
a Father's Day episode, but now it's a sex
Happy
episode.
Father's Day,
Father's Day
everybody.
is going to tie in. That's my next
Oh,
question.
sorry.
okay.
We
So-
even had a conversation pre-podcast this time about what we were going to talk about.
Even when we try, even when we try, we fail.
Why do we bother?
I think Mark mentioned mattresses, and we were all like, fuck it, let's talk about sex.
Break that bitch in.
But he was asking a question about he is expecting their first kid. So he's been listening to our podcast in preparation of becoming a dad, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
You're amazing, Daniel.
Sweet.
Yes.
Um,
And thanks for the open and honest message that you sent us.
a great
Incredible.
DM.
Yeah.
So glad that he followed up with that.
Yeah.
Top notch.
But one of his questions was to have a conversation, especially around sex during pregnancy. And if
It was
you
my
have
favorite thing
anything
ever.
to say about that.
I don't
think
know.
it completely depends on the woman, like
Yes.
the couple and the woman.
If it's a good pregnancy, because
Yes.
some people feel like they're
Maddie did
Body
not
is
want anything
revolting.
to do with me or
Really?
sex during her pregnancies.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and even post. So like for me, it was a long wait.
Yeah.
yeah.
But it was fine. Like I just wasn't anticipating it.
And I think we had to talk about this during, like, we were at a diaper party for somebody at
Yeah.
Joey's, and it was after Joey had his first, and probably after around your first had come,
Yeah.
and we had kind of been talking about that,
Yeah.
which I think is cool that we had those conversations back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she would say like, just so you know, like I know it's been a long time, and it's not because I don't want to. I just don't. It just isn't a thought that like it's,
Yeah.
I don't feel it at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm like, well, thanks for saying that, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
There's an acknowledgement.
yeah,
And it is understandable too. Like their
Yes.
bodies are going through such a change that it's
Crazy.
like you have to have respect for that.
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
everything that they're going through and all of that. It's totally I could see why it wouldn't be a thing for her.
yeah,
And I think like in our relationship, my wife has said before that like there were times where she didn't want to, but she felt bad, so she would
Right.
she would do
Yep.
it. And a lot of their like self-confidence has come or self-esteem has come from looks, and
Right.
when they aren't happy with how they look or they like
just not feeling comfortable.
comfortable and like they feel like a lot of the times when you ask a pregnant lady like how they feel like gross.
Yeah.
And so I can see why it would be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when we hear stories of like women or like friends of ours who their like sex drive like went up during pregnancy, we're like, yeah, right. Like,
See, and
you're
that's
a
where
unicorn.
I would
did.
say where I kind of got that unicorn experience. And like for me, my wife had a great pregnancy. We're very grateful for that. But she felt the most comfortable in her skin when she was pregnant.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And like she would wear bikini. Like we had a pool back then. She would wear bikinis with just the baby belly out. And I was like, I'm really turned on by my pregnant wife right now. But I think it was that next level of confidence that she
Yeah,
had. She was
yeah.
really
So-
confident in her pregnancy, which then made her even hotter to me.
Yeah, totally. And like our first pregnancy, Robin's libido was like through the roof, and I had the time of my life. So when we were like, because it's like you're having a vasectomy back there.
You can't get any more
It's
pregnant.
amazing. It's amazing.
Can't get you double pregnant.
Right? But then with my son, because we had such a bad experience with delivery and all that other stuff with my daughter, and we had my daughter there, right? Like that, all of those things weigh in. So it very much the second time around was like, I'm raring to go because I'm like more attracted to her.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to say more attracted to her, but I found that I really liked my wife pregnant.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's do this. And it just was like the complete opposite of what it was before. So it's probably why I like my daughter more.
You were bitter
a
from the
factor.
start.
The start. I was just like, hey, babe, no. I'm like, it's a boy. I was like, fuck him.
Sounds like a piece of shit.
Fuck him.
I think it's safe to say to like set the expectation at 0 because you don't know what kind of pregnancy
to
your
happiness,
partner
yeah.
is going
Key
to
to
have.
happiness.
So set it there and talk your way through it where it's like, okay, and it's all a matter of how you frame it too. Because like if you're coming at these things as I'm not getting my needs met, we need to be having sex. That's not going to go over well. And that doesn't make her, if it is a heterosexual relationship, it doesn't make her feel good about herself. No. She knows that you're not having sex either. Believe it or not, she's an adult grown woman. She knows that this
But
is
I think a lot of the fear comes from that. Then that develops another sense of insecurity. Is where they feel like you could be going somewhere else.
Yes, and that's what something that Meg and I dealt with a lot, where it was like she feels like when she can't, it then spirals.
Yeah.
Where now I'm not able to do that, or I don't have a desire to do that, and then it just starts the anxiety gets dialed up, and now you're even farther away from that because the more anxious you are, your sex drive's going to go right out the window. So we definitely dealt with that in our relationship a number of times. The only way around that is to talk your way through it, is to find out where both parties are at, and to make it. Yeah, I'll say that. Something that worked for us in our relationship was to normalize taking care of yourself and masturbating. To say, like, listen, I would love to connect with you more often, but I can see that you're not into it. Because I think ours was similar, if I'm remembering properly, where with the first, Meg had a higher libido, and then with our second, Cooper, she didn't. And we just had to normalize that, where it was like, listen, I would love to connect with you, babe. Like, I think you're super hot when you're pregnant, but I understand that you feel like a hot mess, and half the time you feel like you're a damn elephant. So you don't want to have it. I get that.
Yeah.
I would love to have this connection with you, but if you're not up to it, then I'll take care of it myself as long as you're good with it, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
And that way of talking through it and making them not feel like the shame of they're not giving you what you need is kind of
Did
important.
you ever deal with shame in regards to that? Because like Maddie would have said like, oh, I was just I just expected that you were kind of taking care of yourself. Where we didn't really have the conversation for a long time.
Right.
But then when we had the conversation, I felt better about it.
Yes.
I don't know if that had the same effect on you.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't okay with it for myself. Is that the way to say it? Yes.
Yeah.
I definitely felt a lot more shame around that for myself
Yeah.
until we started effectively communicating about
Yeah.
it. Because now it's not in the dark anymore. It's not something you're hiding. You feel like you're going in the corner to do it, right? Like,
It's one of the things I hate so much about how I was raised.
Yeah.
It's like it was such a shameful thing.
Right.
It's like it's your body. You should be able to do whatever you want
Right.
with your body that's safe and doesn't harm anybody else.
Exactly.
Like,
Not in public. We're going to say that here. Not.
yes, obviously.
Yes, the safety of your
yes.
own home and in private.
Maybe not obvious, but
Don't do it in a car near school either, you perverts.
Exactly.
There's a big
You know what I'm
conversation there that jumps into like pornography and stuff like that as well, and how your partner and you feel comfortable with that. What about post pregnancy? When now they're in recovery mode, and you've probably got a window, because I think, and not to compare experiences, but like my first time after having the vasectomy, I was a little scared as far as like, what, like, is this
What's
gonna
gonna
be,
happen?
am I gonna be okay? Like, what, like, how is this post nut feel gonna
Right.
be or whatever? And I can imagine for your wife after pregnancy, wondering what it's gonna be like again.
it was scary for
There
her.
would be a little
Yeah.
bit of nerves going on there, right?
Especially because like she had like stitches and stuff down
Right.
there, and so like, and like other stuff going on. But yeah, it was definitely scary for her.
Yeah.
But and it, like, for us, it took longer than I anticipated again. I
Right.
mean, I'm not saying like nothing happened, but it was just like way like few and far between, like way more so than I anticipated.
Yeah.
But
So, how would you suggest or recommend to somebody like Dan, who's wrote this question,
Right.
to have these conversations with his wife?
What was Dan's question? Sorry.
Just about pregnancy,
What you can
and what to expect, like
through
all these things
pregnancy.
that we've kind of talked about, and like I think it's great, Joey, telling people to communicate.
Right.
But how would you recommend somebody bringing it up in a, like, what is a positive way of saying, like, so how much sex, or like, what can I expect during this? Like,
Right.
if you're making it about yourself, then it wouldn't come
No,
across well. Or can you say something like ask the question to them, like, what are your expectations, or what
Yeah.
are you
Yeah, I think-
thinking?
I think everyone like is different, and every circumstance is different. So you you're gonna kind of have to read and play on the cues of your partner. But like, I would mix your own little way of saying that I'm here to support you, and just reassuring them that you're here and you're attracted to them, and you're in it for the long haul, or whatever, is going to go way further than being like, so when,
Right.
how,
Yes.
Yeah.
Can we
what?
make this happen?
You know, because if you do those things, it can be looked at from a point of selfishness.
Yeah.
And I mean, it might be so, like, it might be from a place of selfishness, but even if you're just, you come back to what Joey said, like, form that comfort. So like, for example, my wife, the thing was, like, if she felt out of it, then just fall asleep, because I'm going to grab your butt and I'm going to take care of myself. And then that turned into the thing where it was like, it turned into a fantasy for me where I would like kind of grope her a little bit aggressively in hopes that she would wake up and like finish the job, essentially. Right. And so none of that would have come out had I not then said, like, hey, I'm totally on board with, like, however, like, pauses or however long that this is going to take, but just to let you know,
Right.
like, I'm not going to hide it. I'm going to be doing it. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be there. And you just might find some shit everywhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
but that's a great place to get to.
Totally.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and there is a bit of fear there, because you don't really know how they're going to, that's why I'm saying, like, you just have to be vulnerable, and you have to be in your own, like, your own personality about it, but put them first. So come from a point of being like, I'm here to support you. And if I have to do this, then I have to do this. And their responses just it might surprise you. It could be, I don't want you to have to do that. Or if you're feeling that way, just let me know. And there's other things that we can do.
Right.
And blah, 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 blah. And then, and you don't know where things end up. You might end up Saturday morning
Fun times.
routines, you know?
Right.
And all I can say is that the whole process, and that's a big part of the process,
Yeah.
but the whole process is a very beautiful thing to get to be a part of. And it's very easily can be looked at as like a woe is me, and you're going to rob
Right.
yourself of experiences if you
Absolutely.
don't have those conversations first.
Yeah, and thank you for asking it that way, Dave, because it's not obviously my goal to oversimplify it.
Yeah.
Meg and I have been together for 17 years. We probably spent 15 of those 17 years not communicating effectively about
Exactly.
sex.
Right.
Totally.
This is a recent thing for us, but it's one of those things where like once you click and you get
Right.
it, you just want other people to get it.
Yeah, if I
Where
could
it's
go
like,
back and tell myself back then,
1000%.
like,
Right.
man, just
Yeah.
trust me, just do this.
I was not
Yeah.
ready to hear those things back then, and
Yeah.
neither was she.
Yeah, exactly.
But could you, right?
That's a good
like,
point.
I
don't
think
know.
of myself, like if somebody had have sat me down and had this conversation of like, this is going to suck. You've never talked to anybody about this before. The more you can just talk to your partner about sex. I don't know if it would have went well, but I think
don't know.
we could
I
have
don't
gotten to this place at least sooner.
But
I
if
don't
you
know that
had
we would have got
podcasts
there.
back then, then you could be like, "Hey, I was listening to this podcast.
Right.
They had this really good conversation, and you know what? It's kind of crazy. There's 4 other guys out there that like to put their wives first,
Yeah.
and actually enjoy the fact that their wives get off before we're able.
Yeah,
to.
Yeah.
that's all I really care
100%.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like getting to that point is so good for both of you, right? Like that's
Totally.
so we went through a stage as well with Meg where like she would felt terrible if I didn't get there. So we had like, I don't know how many times I've told her this where I'm like, babe, if we're gonna count the amount of times that each of us has gotten there in our lifetime, I've got you by quadruple. Like
At
it is
least.
not close.
Yeah.
I started this game very early and
Yeah.
very often.
Yeah.
So I am not worried about getting there. Like the fun for me is getting you there. The whole
Absolutely.
experience.
100%.
That's super secondary. Obviously, we all enjoy it when it happens. But when you can look at that as secondary, as a man, in my opinion, sex gets a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think foreplay is the wrong term. I think it's just like
All play.
all play. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's it's not four.
Yeah.
It's like
So
just for me.
With that being said, then
Right.
what would you say to the dad that's listening that really is not in a good place with their partner? And I think it can be really hard for a lot of
Yeah.
people. So and being in a good place, it can be easy to say, just have the conversation, just talk about it. But what if that relationship isn't in a great place?
Yeah.
Whether life is busy and it's keeping them further apart, maybe work is really stressful on one or the other, and intimacy just isn't there, but they really want it to be there, and they want it to be in a better place, but they're unsure of how to
Prioritize
get
it.
there.
Prioritize it. Spontaneous priority. Like
Spontaneous is tough.
I know it
in
is
certain stages of life.
I know it is, but you have it. Everything's going to come back to communication.
Yeah.
And you have to have your actions. If you're in a stressful situation, speak louder than your words. So if the barrier is you're always on your phone, show that you're putting the phone down. Even if you think they're on their phone more than you, blah, 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 whatever, it doesn't matter.
Right.
If that's to them what the barrier is,
Right.
show that you are doing the thing. If it's work, show, and I know that there's responsibilities, everything's
But show
expensive
that
and
you're
things.
putting aside-
Show that you are capable of putting them first and prove that it's not just like, I would if I could, but I can't.
Yeah.
Because
That's great
you
advice,
can.
Yeah.
And by showing those things a little bit more, you'll be amazed, hopefully, at what can happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and to kind of echo that point, finding out what your partner needs.
Yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
very similar. But so from our perspective, for mine and Meg's relationship, I had to find out what she needed to get in the mood. And often women are a lot more mental when it comes to their sex drive and their libido. So it's going to take longer to get them in the mood. And again, I don't want to overgeneralize, but this is kind of the facts of what exists in the world. And for us, it was the clutter in our house would take her out of the mood immediately.
Yeah.
So even if she was
How
at
did you
work,
find that out?
by communicating and talking. So I had to actually ask her, okay, what are the things that I can do that will help you to stay in the mood? Because we would have a few of these situations where we'd be texting back and forth. She works as well. So we'd be texting at work and feel like, okay, texts are going to get hot and heavy. It's going to happen tonight.
right.
It doesn't happen that night. You're like, okay, what happened? So
Right.
it's like, okay, what happened was the stress of coming home and then dealing with kids and the mess of the house. I was dealing with my own stress, anxiety, whatever. But for her, it was mainly the dishes and like tidiness of the house. When the house wasn't tidy, she literally, her libido would drop because now she
Robin's
connected
the
a
same
lot
way.
of that to her like self-worth was the state of our house.
So there
good
is nothing
point.
sexier than Joey standing at the sink doing the dishes.
That is the most accurate statement that's ever been said. The amount
if you ever walk into Joey's
Oh my
house and he's frantically cleaning, you turn
know.
yourself around.
Yeah.
get out of my
heck
house.
out of
Lock yourself out.
Immediately. Exactly. Because it also came with us too. That's all very true. It also came with a fear that was attached to that. So earlier on in our relationship, one of Meg's big fears was that I wouldn't be helpful around the house because the way that my household was set up was my mom did all of the cooking, the cleaning, and everything. So she knew that's what I was shown was that my dad just worked and then came in, ate, and then went to bed. So she was worried that that was going to be her life, that I wasn't going to be helpful around the house. And then honestly, I proved that to be true for a little bit of time. When we moved out on our own, I wasn't super helpful because it wasn't a priority for me. So as soon as I learned that if that became a priority to me, that mean that would become more of a priority for her. Now I'm super helpful around the house, to say the least. So, and it's something that now it's become part of my regular routine. And now I actually have a drop libido when our house isn't put together because I've gotten so used to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the main thing that
stresses
I
me
would
out.
say, the great thing that you said there was that you talked about it and found out that.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of people that do acts of service in expectation of something in return.
Yeah, it's like contractual.
can't-
Yeah,
Yeah,
where it's
can't
like,
do that.
I cleaned the dishes today, I vacuumed, I put the kids' toys away, and she just didn't even acknowledge me.
And
at
I
the
was
end of
there
the
for a
night.
long time.
You're gonna be in a world full of bitter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was. I was. And it's a very hard, very, very hard thing to learn to let go of keeping score of everything that you do that you don't want to do because you think you're doing it for someone else and you're not. You're
Right.
not doing it for someone else. You're literally doing it because
You're hoping for.
no, but not even like it's like if your wife or partner wasn't there, how would you live your life? And just hearing that, and I heard that on another podcast.
He said it.
Just hearing that though, like kind of clicked. It's like it's true because I would eat my cereal or whatever, and I'd put my bowl in the sink,
Right.
and then walk away, and then that would piss Robin off. I would take my socks off and put them on the couch, and then walk away, and that would piss Robin off. So then the second I started being like, if Robin wasn't here right now, because if I keep doing all these things, she's not going to be.
Right.
If she wasn't, who would pick up after it? So when I would start doing these things, I'd be like, no, fuck it. I'm just going to do it now and I'm going to clean. Or I'm going to take my socks off and then I'm going to put them in the basket or in my pocket so I don't forget or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you learn these little systems that like all of a sudden now your wife is like, okay, he's actioning, he's doing things, and he's not just leaving them expecting me to do things. The only thing that I would say, Dave, is that sometimes it's as unfortunate as it is, there is nothing men or dads or whatever can say. And June is Men's Mental Health Month. And a lot of the time, if men are in an abusive relationship where they're being gaslit or they're in a relationship where they're doing all these things and they still don't feel like it's it might not be able to be fixed. It might not be able to be worked on. And again, a Will Smith quote that kind of like took me to like heart, I took to heart, was like, you need to take some time and realize what makes you happy. And if I'm able to even be a part of that.
Oh.
And because sometimes, especially if you've been together for a really long time, people tend to grow apart. Things to happen. And as unfortunate and heartbreaking and terrifying as that thought is, it is a possibility, and trying to force things or just staying together for X, Y, and Z. You'd have to figure out that on your own.
Right.
But I would try to do whatever it is that you can do action first, but then also with that in the forefront, just not being afraid to say like, I'm actively trying here and it doesn't seem to work. So I just need to take a step back. And I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing, but I really need you to focus in on what it is that makes you happy, and see if I'm able to fill that for you.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there has to be a willingness from both parties.
Absolutely.
Like, if there's not, then it's almost impossible.
Yeah.
I was going to say to go off that, counseling, like that was my next step. Like if you feel like you're in a really bad spot and you don't see a way out of it, or you just don't know how to get out of it, counseling could be a good option, whether that's just for yourself or whether or not that is partners counseling. Especially if you're in those early stages and you haven't gotten into marriage and kids and all of those things. If you're finding that you're already having these big issues that you don't even know how to broach or talk about with your partner, then counseling could be a good option before you get into those stages of life where kids are involved and you're moved in together and you have joint financing. Things get messier and messier the farther along your relationship goes. So if you can iron out some of these things before you get into those stages, you'll be better off, in my opinion.
Have you had any conversations with your therapist about sex or intimacy? Is that something that they allowed to do? Because I know that there are like sex therapists.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't know if that's something that like any therapist can talk to you about, or
Yeah, I mean, they could definitely speak to you on the subject. We've talked about sex a little bit with my therapist, not trying to think now if we haven't had specific like right now conversations about mine and Meg's current sex life. That's a word I wanted to use. We haven't had current sex life conversations because of the fact that's going very well. Yeah, there hasn't been much to talk to be counseled on to do with that, but we talked a lot about past and that year that we went without having any and stuff like that, and more talking about past and sexual interference, which is another thing that's the nugget on top of all of this, is that I cannot remember the stat, but too many women deal with some form of sexual interference, and what that is just anything. Sexual interference usually encompasses most of what people would call assault, where assault or rape is a completely different category on itself. Sexual interference is that's a form of abuse. Well, sexual interference could be anything to do with sex. It's like being just touched inappropriately, even if you have clothes on, or anything that kind of interferes with your normal sexual habits that you would get normally. So yeah, far too many people deal with that at way too young of ages. So that's just another thing that you may not even know. I didn't know that my partner had dealt with that in her past until way later in life. So you may not even know that that's something that they deal with, and that's something that really should only be dealt with through counseling, in my opinion. That's something that's very difficult to walk through and to hold on to and to deal with. And that's something that could be directly affecting your partner's sex drive and their libido, and they may not even know about it. So there's a ton of factors that go into sex, and that's why it's such a big subject.
so it's worth asking a therapist that you may know, and if it's not a topic that they feel comfortable going into, they might be able to recommend you to somebody that can help you with that and have that conversation.
There are specific sex therapists.
One more question that just popped in my head while you're talking about that is, how do you ask your spouse to go to counseling? I'm not asking for myself, but I'm asking about like somebody who's in that rough circumstance. Is there a way of like, if you think your partner is in a bad spot, do you tell them, I think you need to go to counseling? I think that would be a trigger to piss somebody off. Or do you like make the step for yourself and hope that they would be like, oh, he's doing it, maybe I should do it? Or
frame it as a question and just put the onus back on them.
it's always we do it with kids.
say-
You ask a question.
Like,
Do you think counseling would be beneficial?
Do you,
Right.
Do you would you be open to going to counseling?
Yeah.
Like just
Or even bringing it up in that way, if you know that that will trigger a defensive response from your partner, even bringing it up for yourself first, it's gonna sound bad, but whatever. Even if you're not planning to go, to say like, hey, I've been looking into some counseling potentially for myself. Is that something that you think you would be interested in, or like couples counseling, or not? Or to your point, Dave, maybe you do have to lead by example. If it's something that you truly believe your partner would benefit from, it's never going to be a bad idea to do it.
Yeah,
I can say that with full confidence going through this journey and starting it the way that I did, not thinking that I needed it. I needed it far more than I thought. So I can say with 100% confidence, you have nothing to do but gain from going to effective counseling. I'll say it that way because
said.
I don't doubt that there are a lot of counselors out there, and we've had conversations with people recently that have had negative experiences with counselors. They do
Yeah.
exist. They're just human, and they may not be for you. But if you can find someone that you can truly open up, be vulnerable with, and dig into your past with, do it 100%.
Very well said. So now, next question.
Hold on, no, shut up for a second.
Okay.
Like the podcast doesn't count unless Mark tells Dave to shut up for a second.
It's not a good episode. No, now I feel guilty.
No, don't. It's the best.
No.
He loves it.
Okay, was your question related to this topic?
No,
Because
it was a new
mine's
question.
mine's
So-
completely off topic.
Okay, take yours first.
Okay, I didn't know that this conversation was going to go here, and I need to get something from you guys. So I have to do this before our time is up.
Okay.
But like, I agreed to do dinner 2 nights a week because my wife had said, I
That's a
hate
big commitment.
right? And I said to her, I was like, what is one thing that I can do for you? She's like, I'm so sick of trying to plan dinners.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can commit to 2 nights a week.
Okay.
And I agreed on Thursday, which is tomorrow,
Yeah.
and then Saturday. What the do I need a dad-friendly meal? I never realized how stressful this
Barbecue.
is.
Barbecue, yeah,
Barbecue
absolutely.
season.
But I just bought a new barbecue. It's in a box and it's got wood pellet. I've just marked and
Throw it on a
Wood
Cast-
pellets, that's
cast
not a
iron.
barbecue. Get a regular barbecue.
No, I can't.
Cast
It's a
iron in the oven is basically like the barbecue. It's-
cast iron.
Dad-friendly
Cast iron
barbecue.
pan.
How are
Yeah,
you with
cook on the cast iron.
mashed potatoes?
I can do the mashed.
Okay. How are you with ground beef?
What do you mean? How are you with
Ground beef, mashed
Shepherd's
potatoes,
pie, it
shepherd's
sounds
pie.
like.
Yeah.
Shepherd's
Cheese.
pie is a dad-friendly meal. I
Yeah,
feel
but
like.
she doesn't like shepherd's pie.
And it's
my
not really
favorite
a summer meal.
What about pasta? Is she a pasta person?
Spaghetti, easy go.
Yeah, that's the easiest.
Is it?
I'm going to
Yeah.
like my lean-to. So like mac and
Same.
cheese. I'm good at that. So like boil the macaroni, throw in some cheese, toss in
Tacos?
the oven.
Okay, so then what?
fajitas.
Fajitas.
This is a good one.
You got to set the plate on fire.
Chop,
though.
chop, chop, chop,
No,
chop.
but the
you gotta
problem
go all
is
out.
she does
He's going to
everything.
try to break you Brian it.
I know. I can't do any of that.
Sous Chef Brian can take a back seat here.
But like, I'm screwed because we don't have takeout up there. It's like
Pancakes
I actually
and
gotta
eggs,
do
man.
it.
Breakfast
Oh
for
yeah,
dinner.
breakfast for dinner.
We had breakfast for dinner yesterday.
Switch it up though.
You have to
French
tell her
toast.
that she's not allowed to do breakfast for dinner.
I know.
Go with your plan ahead of
I
time.
know.
All you really need,
need
ideally,
something.
8 meals, so that way you have your month covered.
Can
Ideally,
I
now, that's a big
know,
ask,
I know.
but maybe
I need
4.
I need the dad den to come through here,
Yes,
like
that's what
in
we
the
need.
DMs. Just light me up with some
Okay.
All
dad.
right.
food.
Aren't you an
Gourmet grilled
AI
cheese?
guy?
It doesn't work.
You already tried it.
Yeah,
You used to be a
ChatGPT.
chicken and broccoli guy.
Yeah, no, we can't do that either.
Just add something else
She
in.
has limited it. She's like, no chicken, no broccoli, no rice.
Oh,
I was like,
Wow.
those are my whole food groups.
You are screwed.
I mean,
Filet
it's only
mignon.
really one meal.
Yeah, it
Although
sounds
unless
like
you're gonna
steak
mix it
on
up.
the barbecue to me.
Steak
That's
on the
what that-
barbecue.
Steak
Then I
on
gotta
the barbie.
assemble the barbecue, and
Yes.
it's supposed to piss pour with rain tomorrow.
Get that done before Saturday. That's your goal. If you can have a barbecue Saturday, that's
Saturday steaks
one
I can
thing.
do.
Yeah.
Tomorrow,
Saturday steaks. That's
what type of spaghetti sauce are we using these
Depends.
days?
I like the one from Costco, ragu. I'm a big fan of that.
Ragu's like the most basic.
Maybe it's not ragu. I don't know. It
It's
was
in a can.
It's probably basic.
It's
though,
not.
because
It's not.
the
No,
vanilla-
no, no.
We talked about the
It's a
vanilla
good one
one.
because it's from John Manifo, the Italian pastor.
Every-
No, but
every
Manifo
guy-
does like that one.
Every guy thinks
That's
that their
true.
spaghetti is the best spaghetti. Have you ever noticed that?
My wife's spaghetti is the best spaghetti.
Well, my
I'll eat
mother-in-law's
spaghetti however it
is-
comes.
Exactly. I'm not picky with spaghetti.
One of my favorite meals was a Valentine's Day back when we were dating, and she made spaghetti and she made garlic bread, and we had it in her room. She had this like mural that was like a oceanside, and she set up a table with candles, and we had like this romantic.
Yeah, I can't do that for my kids, man.
No, I was just saying about my wife's spaghetti. That was the best spaghetti I ever had.
Okay.
Something
it was
else
an
probably
experience.
happened after that, but that might have contributed to the.
Okay, so
That's
I'm gonna do
true.
spaghetti. I'm gonna do
Okay.
spaghetti.
That's a good
Okay,
call. Jump into it.
What am I getting? Because we need to talk to me here. I don't do spaghetti. I've never
What
done
kind
it
of
before.
noodles do you guys usually have?
It's gonna have to be
Spaghettini or
gluten free because
spaghetti?
she's
Quinoa
on this
noodles.
gluten
Quinoa
free
noodles.
chemo.
Quinoa noodles. They're delicious.
You're disgusting. Absolutely not. No.
Madness.
My
Okay, I have the
spaghetti
pickiest
noodle
wife
can't
on the
look
planet.
like
She
it
likes
came
them.
out of a meat
she likes
grinder. Okay, that can't happen.
They look like normal spaghetti noodles. I'm telling you,
call
these
them
ones are the
bullshit.
best.
Okay,
I'm gonna send it to you. They're delicious.
send it to me. But I need a sauce because that overwhelms me. The sauce.
A simple sauce we used to use because we are plain Jane was the Yellow Label Compliments spaghetti sauce.
We really like the President's Choice,
President's
the sweet
Choice.
basil marinara.
Okay, text me
That's
that.
our favorite.
Text
A
me
little
that later.
Parmesan on top.
Yeah, a little parm.
Make a garlic bread to go with
I'm
it.
gonna make a garlic bread.
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
the key because even
Fresh
if the
garlic?
spaghetti sucks, you can
Garlic
just
bread.
eat garlic bread for dinner.
Totally.
Fresh
Easy.
garlic?
But gluten.
What's fresh?
Calm down, sous chef.
Garlic Where are you getting your Where are you getting your garlic?
Garlic
Is it
butter.
dry?
My
Okay,
garden.
enough of your fucking dinner conversation. This is what he interrupted me with. I wasn't ready to end the show yet. I
Specifically told you to shut
I
up.
got one night to talk about sex, and I'm trying to get all
there
of
will be
it
more
There will
nights.
be
I think
more.
we're just.
This is going
touching the-
well.
No,
You wanted
yeah,
to
this is
tie
the
in
itch.
Father's Day still.
Yes.
So Father's Day, is there a special request? Like when you're talking about Father's Day, Mother's Day, what do you want for the day? Are there any special requests being made for Father's Day?
What you're looking
I don't
for
need to
is-
know what the special request is. Why? But is there a special request?
Having Father's
being
Day
made?
outside of NFL season is bullshit.
And
It's
I think we talked about this before.
total bullshit.
and is
I have
there,
zero expectations.
is
Just
there,
surprise me. Maybe that's my only expectation.
But like with sex in mind.
Sexpectations.
Oh.
Is there a sexpectation
That's
with
weird.
Father's Day?
No, I don't even.
So
put
do you
those two
have any
together.
like are there any special events throughout the year like
Hmm.
birthday, Father's Day where it's like
We're getting
you
it
are expecting something or
in. No.
No birthdays?
It would be
sometimes.
nice. It would be
Sometimes.
nice. But I don't
The
know.
key is to not have expectations. I think
that's a good
that's
point.
the point.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like
I
people.
wanted to give some advice to the fathers
Yes.
out there.
I feel like guys who like are that type of person probably aren't listening to our podcast.
But maybe they are.
Oh, that's
Maybe
fair.
they are. Though.
You think?
Maybe there's someone. I don't. I think
If
there could
you're a
be.
They're
guy,
a closeted real dad. Is that what you're saying? Like on the outside, they're like fucking alpha.
Yeah.
they're
And
not
then on
telling
the
everybody.
inside,
They're
they're
not
like-
telling anybody
No.
that they're listening to the podcast.
No, exactly.
They gotta laugh like Dave. You know? Like on the outside, they're all
Got
just
'em.
like Dwayne the Rock Johnson. On the inside, they're giggling like Dave over here.
There, give
I
me
mean,
Kenny.
there's women that fall into that.
Yeah,
category, too,
100%,
that-
yeah.
that kind of like are okay with being that submissive type person. But
Yeah.
that's not my relationship anyway.
It's so funny because my wife is like the ultimate alpha wife outside the bedroom, but then inside the bedroom, it's my time to shine.
You go get some.
So much fun.
Yeah, so I would say that, like, because there's a ton of like, I don't know, research and everything around that about setting the expectation makes it worse for everybody.
Fair.
Now that being said, when you do plan, say, a date night, I'd say that's one for us where it's like, okay, if we're planning a date night, everything mechanically is good to go on her end, then I think there is something of an expectation.
Did you just
If
compare her
Ann flows-
vagina to an engine?
That's a strange
You
word.
Just, you just compared her vagina to an engine?
I was trying to spare you because I know you get queamish when I bring up periods, even though I'm very comfortable with
Okay.
it.
So
I
be
was trying to spare
comfortable,
your
Joey.
ears. Very
Okay.
good. As long as Meg's not on her
It's
period.
Formula One
And
over
we
here.
know that we're good to go.
You
But
got
I
a
think
pit
there
crew
is
down there. Changing the tires in 8 seconds.
I'm the pit crew.
Very efficient.
Very
He is
efficient.
very efficient.
Highly efficient. I think there is some sort of expectation around it when you plan a date night, right?
Yeah, true.
But I think the key there is just to learn how your partner works and
Yeah.
learn that what they need in order to get there to make your chances better that both parties are going to have fun. You're going to get
And
there
you
that
can't do that without.
night. Communication.
There it
You know what
is.
though? When I get home from a date with my wife, normally we've had like a crazy meal. And I'm so full.
That was actually
so is
advice
she.
from one of the
was.
podcasts was
Yeah.
to not have sex on a date night because of that.
No,
Exactly.
you have sex
Or-
before dinner.
or
Yeah.
before you
I
go.
wish. I
Right?
wish. So that's the other thing we didn't touch on is the living situation is a big factor.
Yes.
Totally.
It's like we're on the same level. There's not a lot of room
No.
between like the farthest part of our
Yeah.
main floor and our bedroom. So it's
Totally.
like, especially like, and there's lots of people that live in smaller spaces than
Yeah.
we do. So
Well, and even like multi-generational homes. Like,
Yeah,
you imagine
exactly.
having your parents live with you and
Yeah,
then trying to have
that'd be
sexy times.
tricky.
That's difficult. We lived
We
with
lived with your
Exactly.
parents for
you
a
live
while.
with my parents, and I lived with Meg's parents for a extended time as well. And it puts a strain on it because
Totally.
it's hard to get horny when your parents are upstairs.
the hotel
We're not
bills,
children anymore.
The hotel bills really start racking up after a while.
Well, hold on for a second. I have to give shout out to Paul Cronin.
Okay.
He's a Patreon long-term listener.
God
Yep.
love Pro.
So this morning I did like a prayer because I was having like a hard couple of days, and I had asked for a sign, and out of nowhere, Paul texted me at 9:20. He says, "Hey buddy, I just wanted to let you know that you're doing a great job. You're doing the best in your work, the best in your social media, and the best at being a father. And it is apparent to the people around you how much you put into your family. I hope this isn't awkward because we're not that close, but something inside me told me that you needed a pat on the ass this morning.
Yes, Paul.
Wow.
I hope those birds aren't driving you crazy today."
Oh,
I love
man.
that.
And so while as I was praying, I just kind of like
Goosebumps.
closed my eyes and did like some breath work, and I actually listened to the birds. So literally like
Yeah, that's cool.
this happened. It's like universe thing, like totally
Wow.
in alignment. So like I went into the bath. I was taking a shit when he sent this to me. But I literally texted him back right away, which is very uncharacteristic of me.
Can confirm.
Even for the boys.
But I just, basically like thanked him for taking the initiative to listen to his insides, to just send that out to a
That's
message.
great. Yeah.
So I would like to extend that to other people. Like just whatever your gut's saying right now, stop listening to the podcast. Just go and text somebody that you think might need it, because odds are they do.
I would
Especially if
also-
it's positive. Don't just use this to go out and like chew somebody up.
No, you can't.
Positive
That's fine. If it makes you feel better, I'm for it.
Okay, very good.
I would also like to send some more love to Paul because last week or 2 weeks ago, I messaged him saying, "Hey, Paul, we need some stickers for this mental health golf tournament we're going into. We want to hand out some stickers for the Real Dad podcast.
Yeah.
Can you help?" He's like, "Sure. Like, when do you need this?" But I'm like, next week. And he's like, later that day, he had like 8 designs
Yeah.
over to me. And then like I was going back and forth with him for a day about the design. And then like mid next week, I had stickers
Beauty.
made. And it was just like, it was so cool to see him like jump into action like that for us and like
Totally.
not asking for anything in return. So thank you again, Paul. You're a beauty.
That's
He
amazing.
is such a good dude.
Also, next week we are going to be having a special guest on, and we are going to be able to announce who the new sponsor of the Real Dad podcast is.
Do people care about that?
I care about it.
Okay. Then,
It means we can keep doing
about
this,
it.
so they should care about
They
it.
miss our ad reads, I think.
And they
It's
do.
an
They were a lot of
exciting
fun.
thing for us.
Yeah.
They don't want me to be
because-
doing those ad reads now. I tell you.
They're okay with Mark Rayson doing them.
It's an exciting thing for us because there's another company that values what we are doing and
Yeah.
what we're putting out there into the
Totally.
world and wants to support that, and that means so much to us.
Yes.
So we're excited to be able to have that chat next week. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and just so everyone knows, like, we're not getting rich off of this. The cost of that just kind of keeps things at net zero.
Yes.
So
Yet.
that we're able to put things. Okay. Well,
That's our goal, to take it to the moon here.
take it.
To the moon. So enjoy your Father's Day this coming weekend. If you're listening to this week and Father's Day is coming up for you, enjoy it. Don't put too much expectation or sexpectation on the weekend.
love that.
Take it as an opportunity to get closer to your partner and maybe communicate about some things that you haven't communicated about yet.
Hey, I'm proud of us. We actually got to record something in time
We did.
for a holiday. We're not talking about it in the past.
This is great.
This is the
Even
part where
if
we
it's
find out
just
that Brian
5
didn't hit the
minutes of
record
it.
button or something.
Don't go
Still
there.
recording.
We're good. Well,
Well,